Welcome to another Therasas podcast, where in most of these podcasts, we talk about simplifying sales and marketing for practice owners. But today I'm going to be having a conversation with Jill Steeley, and we're going to be having this really important conversation around clinic manager versus a chief operating officer. So, and why this is important? Well, my wife and I have been having a discussion about her group practice, and she's got 12 clinicians, and she's like, Brent, I think I need to hire like a director of operations. And she already has a clinical director, but she needs more on the organizational side. So that kind of kicked off a long conversation for us about like, what is this role of a clinical director, chief operating officer, or maybe even a fractional one. And so when I got connected to Jill, I was like, Jill, let's have this conversation. So a little bit about Jill is that she's a community health center consultant, executive coach, and host of the Community Health Collective podcast, dedicated to helping federally qualified health centers achieve financial stability and leadership excellence. She spent more than 8 years as the CEO of Pure View Health Center in Montana, where she turned the nearly $1 million deficit into a multi-million-dollar reserve, grew annual revenue tenfold, and doubled the organization's unique patient base. You were hustling, Jill. That was a hustle. After leaving that role, Jill launched her consulting and coaching practice, offering leadership development programs, group and one-to-one executive coaching, and online courses specifically designed for health centers leaders navigating the unique challenges of the FQHC, that's federally qualified health center model. She holds a master's of public health degree and is a certified balanced scorecard facilitator and certified KPI trainer. Welcome to the show, Jill.
Thank you, Brent. I'm so happy to be here with you today, and this is a great topic.
Yeah, well, thanks for sharing. One of the things I love is when I attend conferences or I get to speak to people who are kind of outside of the mental health world. You are in the mental health world, but it kind of a unique area of the mental health world is like community mental health and things like that. So why don't you just kind of give our listeners a quick little overview of what is a federally qualified health center?
Sure.
And then we can jump into our topic at hand.
Yeah, well, I love talking about federally qualified health centers, so thank you for allowing me to do so. So like you said, I was the CEO of a FQHC. It's just another term for community health center. There are about 1,500 community health centers across the US. They are private entities that receive federal funding in order to serve the underserved, so people who otherwise can't afford or can't access quality healthcare. Most of them are required to provide comprehensive primary care, so medical, dental, and behavioral health, and a lot of them have pharmacies as well. Some of them also have added on specialty such as rheumatology, dermatology, ophthalmology, but their core requirement is to provide that medical, dental, and behavioral health triangle, all as integrated care.
Got it. Okay. So what would you say, before we jump in, one more question, what's sort of the number one misconception that people might have about an FQHC?
You're doing good.
Yeah.
The most common misconception is that only people who are low income or people who are uninsured can go to a community health center. It is something that community health centers have to be really intentional about in their marketing and outreach, because when people are confused, they don't buy, right? So there's a lot of that misconception around, well, if I have insurance, I can't go there. Or if I can afford my visit, I can't go there. That is completely untrue. They want to see you. They do see everyone, and most of them will bill all commercial insurance, including Medicare and Medicaid.
Okay. Got it. All right. Well, let's jump in to this topic, because there's a lot of Therasas subscribers who are large group practices.
Yeah.
Obviously they need a CRM to be able to track client leads that are coming in, but they're always thinking kind of at an operational level too. And so why don't you kind of walk us through a little bit about, I know the first part we're going to be talking about, like, know the difference between a clinic manager and an ops manager, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, it is a big difference. And a lot of times, what will happen is someone like your wife will start a practice or start a small practice with maybe a partner or two. And pretty soon, they've grown it into a fairly large practice with multiple providers, maybe a couple different service lines. And they're kind of the owner is still trying to run the operations of that practice, and it becomes unmanageable, or it might be manageable, but what they're really doing is just putting out fires every day, and they're not really able to be strategic. So hiring a clinic manager is a great thing. Those are the people who are going to run the day-to-day operations. They are the ones putting out those fires for the owners. They're the ones handling the patient complaints. They're the ones making sure the providers and the support staff have what they need to provide, really high quality care. But they're not usually able to be strategic thinkers. They're not usually allowed the time, or they don't have that skill set to think about expanding the clinic practice or starting a new location, or building systems and taking on something like TheraSAS for client relations, and really getting in there with transformational healthcare and not just that transactional healthcare that's happening on the day-to-day basis. So I do think there is a big difference between clinic managers and COOs or operation directors, because they're really going to be the make or break when it comes to that owner being able to kind of let go of that day-to-day operations, putting out the fires, and thinking strategically about growth and expansion.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I think one of the and actually helpful, because one thing I keep going back to is sometimes I wonder if in your definition of clinic manager, because a lot of private practice will have pre-licensed clinicians, right? And so there needs to be some sort of supervision in that.
Yes.
You see the clinic manager helping oversee some of that supervision as well, because there's like a clinical side of that, but there's also just an operation side that's really important.
Yeah, definitely. If that is something that they are trained to be, which is that licensed supervisor, they can definitely fill that role, which again kind of pulls them away from being able to be the strategic long-term thinker right alongside the practice owner or the CEO or the CFO, because they are doing that supervision, that clinical supervision. And that's a great point, because a lot of times in fact, probably most of the time, we put people in those clinic manager positions because they are excellent clinicians, right? So we stick them in a management position because they have proven to be a really great clinician. They can supervise those pre-licensure people. And then they can also do the staffing coverage, the scheduling, the patient flow, the front desk, that kind of oversight. But they're not usually privy to where does the CEO want to take this practice? Where is the CFO looking to increase revenue? What kind of strategies are we looking to implement in the next year in order to grow, expand, achieve excellence in certain areas, things like that. So they're great clinicians, and a lot of times they don't come with a lot of management and leadership experience because they are being promoted into those positions. We do that at health centers all the time. We pick out a great, medical assistant or a great counselor or a great whatever it is to manage a team of those type of clinicians. and then kind of wonder why they struggle with that high level leadership thinking and
Mm,
skill set.
got it. Okay. So that's helpful. So the COO or the ops kind of manager or whatever, they're thinking of helping the CEO kind of build what's next, essentially.
That's
Or
right.
the CEO has the vision, and then that ops manager or COO kind of helps implement some of that vision into it. And that also involves working maybe with the clinic manager or clinical director, because the clinical director boots on the ground kind of doing that work as well. Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, got it. So that's helpful. So why don't we kind of in the outline that we've worked out together. So we talked about you talked about diagnosing your real problem first.
Yeah. So, you don't want to just say, boy, I think I need a COO. You want to think about what are the pain points in your current practice? Is it that you, the owner, are still dealing with the everyday operations? You're in the weeds, you're on the ground doing that work? Or is it that the schedule isn't correct, or your staffing coverage isn't managed, or there isn't cross departmental alignment? Maybe you've got a billing team and a front desk team and the medical team or the mental health team, and they're not really in alignment with each other. Is it that your revenue cycle is not being managed well? Think about what are your current pain points as the CEO, as the owner, or as the finance person, whatever it might be, and then decide, do you need someone who's at that higher level systems building and strategic person, or do you need someone to take over those day-to-day functions and details for you? And once you know that, you can put together a really good position description that that person is going to handle those specific pain points that you have. That person is going to be part of your executive team if they're a COO. So how can they help you? You have this 10,000 foot view. How can they help you get that down to 100-foot view and really take the clinic to the next level? Or is it that you need some of these things taken off your plate so that you can be more strategic, so that you can be in that owner CEO role more? And that would be more the clinic manager person.
Got it. Okay, so now my mind's swirling around a little bit. So couple things. Does the operations CO, is that kind of act like a bit of like a chief of staff where they
Yeah.
kind of sit in between the CEO and everyone else? So it's not like they're going to be dreaming. The CEO likes to dream and think of the trees or think of the forest. The CEO might be thinking of the trees and all those things that need to be taken care of to accomplish that vision. They see all the little individual things. So they're kind of implementing that vision like we talked about, but they're going to be like overseeing essentially your clinical team, and including that clinic manager or the clinical
Yeah.
director and those types of things. Or does that sound right? Kind of on an
Yeah.
organizational level?
100%. That person is not, if you hire a COO level position, they are part of your executive team. They are part of the conversations about your vision. Where is it that you want to see this clinic go in the next 1 to 3 years? And then they are the person who then makes that happen. So I, as the CEO, I'm a very visual person. I am also a strategic planning facilitator. So I am able to really think in that 10,000 foot, 1 to 3 year view. But I needed my COO to say, okay, these are our goals, these are our objectives. This is what each department needs to do in order for us to hit those goals and objectives. And then she would work with those clinic managers or front desk manager or billing manager in order to make sure that that team was doing the things that we said needed to be done in order to hit those objectives and goals in our strategy.
Got it. Perfect. Thank you. Uh, Now I have a couple questions on, it's sort of like the fill in the blank. You might need a COO if you can kind of fill in, like, what are some of those, like,
Yeah.
those things that practice owners, like, I'm struggling with these things. I might need a COO if this is happening or this is happening. Like, can you fill in some of those blanks
Yeah.
for me?
I think I would start with, so I always say our staff is our number one customer. And if you're starting to see a high turnover of staff, if you're starting to see providers leaving, support staff leaving, there's a reason for that. And it's usually because there is chaos, there's operational chaos. Maybe it's that the equipment that they've been given or the tools and technology aren't working for them. Maybe it's because they're all crammed in one location, or they don't have a dedicated, support person or assistant. There's some sort of operational chaos going on, and that really requires a clinic manager, but also someone who can pull themselves out of that situation and look at the entire organization and say, why is there turnover happening? And what do we need to fix in order to keep people, our staff, happy and retain them? Then the next thing I would look at is your finances. Are you continuing to attract new patients, new clients to your clinic? If not, then you, the CEO or the owner, probably needs to have more of a presence in your community, needs to focus more on outreach and marketing and client relationships. And then you need a COO to be managing the day-to-day of your organization, your practice. So thinking about the business model, and I do this a lot. I run a CEO boot camp where I teach, them how to attract new patients, new clients, because if we're not bringing in new revenue all the time, right, we're not really profitable or sustainable. So we as the CEOs, we need to be that high level out in the community, doing the outreach, thinking about how do we attract new business to our practices, and then handing over the reins to a COO to be able to give us the time to do that and to be more strategic that way. I
Right.
think another way to think about it is, do you have systems in place? There's so much now that AI can do and tools and technology can do. Are you ready to take that on? If not, if it feels like, oh my gosh, we would just be shut down immediately if we tried to take on one piece of software or, one other client relationship management system or whatever it is, that means you're operating without systems. And so a COO can really, again, take that high level view of yours and then implement systems, automate things, get rid of old processes that don't work anymore so that the entire organization can be much more efficient and using the tools and technology that we're so lucky to have in healthcare.
Yeah. Okay, that's really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about the cost of the wrong hire, and so I know this is what keeps a lot of practice owners up at night. It's scary to hire someone at this level because it usually means it's costing the practice. They may not be able to see clients and cover what their costs. You know what I mean? So it's like a huge investment.
Absolutely.
And if you ever had to fire someone, is like the worst thing to go through. So you want to get this right. So hiring the wrong person can be an expensive mistake emotionally and financially and all these other things. So I'm curious, as someone who's probably hired these folks in the past, what are some of the characteristics you would want to look for in a COO? And you could go into, like, is there a DISC personality? Is there like a Myers, like some people that are more kind of aligned in certain ways? Or so any kind of hints on that, I'm sure that would.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. It is so important to hire the right person for this role because they are the CEO's right-hand person. They've really got to be in sync with the CEO. And so, and I'm a very picky hire person. I don't know how to say that, hirer. I actually teach people how to hire the right person because I have been in that situation where you think this is going to be the great fit, or you're in a hurry, you're not really doing a lot of research on this person, and so you just stick them in the position and hope it works out,
Yeah.
only to be letting them go, before their probationary period, hopefully, it runs out. So I would say the first thing you want to do is make sure you have a good position description.
Mm.
Again, you want to think about what are the pain points? What are the things that this person is going to take off the CEO's plate or the CFO's plate, or you name it. What are those pain points that
Yeah.
this position is going to be responsible for? And then once you have a good position description, you can start putting the feelers out there. I like to start locally. I like to say, reach out to people in my network. This is why a network is so important, to be able to say, hey, I'm looking for an operations director. Do you know of anyone in this position currently that I could talk to? Because I think it's so important to have good references on a person. And a lot of times organizations won't give you a whole lot of information. Either their HR department has told them that you can't say anything, whatever it might be, but people who know them might give you some information about that person. They might say, oh yeah, I know this person, they work at the hospital or whatever. They'd be amazing. Or, try to steer clear of this person.
Yeah.
I hate
Yes.
to say that, but I mean, you're saving yourself a lot of time and money by kind of digging around and getting a full picture of someone. And then you can put it on places like LinkedIn. You can look for their references on LinkedIn. I say that, but I'm not really great at getting references on LinkedIn, but I know a lot of people do that. You can hire a fractional COO and kind of try them out for a little while. Most fractional consulting firms, so I just actually did a podcast episode on this that's
Okay.
releasing tomorrow.
Oh,
Yeah, on the fractional executive, but they're going to do that background check on that person. And I don't just mean a criminal background check, but I mean like really getting in there and looking for this person's outcomes. Like, what were they able to achieve in previous positions? How did they help the CEO? How did they help the organization? What was their relationship with the board? What's their relationship with the staff? Things like that, that you're just not going to get from a formal reference check, but is so important to know, because that's going to really tell you if this person is going to hurt or improve your culture at your practice. And that's the key is, culture, culture, culture.
yeah.
Culture eats strategy for lunch any time of the day. So we have to make, if we want to be strategic and we're thinking about growing and expanding and adding providers and adding service lines, or even attracting new patients, the culture has to be there. And that means you have to have the right person as chief of staff, like you said.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I would love, to talk a little bit more about this fractional
Yeah.
COO, because I know a lot of practice owners may not have the funds to just go out and hire one, but a fractional one could maybe get the ball rolling a little bit in some of those critical areas.
Yeah.
Yeah, just tell us a little bit what you know about fractional CEOs, how they operate, kind of what does that relationship look like?
Yeah, so these are typically people who have, like me, they've left their executive level position in healthcare, in mental health practice, in you name it, they should have an area of expertise in alignment with what the practice does. They've either retired or they've left and become a consultant. They have found that they really like supporting a couple of different practices at the same time. What you don't want is someone who was let go of their position or terminated in their position and is now putting themselves out there as a fractional per COO, CFO, whatever it might be. So again, doing some homework on that person is really important.
Yeah.
The benefit to using a fractional is the budget. Yes, you are going to pay a little bit for, it's not like you're hiring them from a temp agency. It's usually a consulting practice or firm that manages those contracts with those fractional executives. And so you're going to pay a little bit for that. But what you're getting in return is someone who can come in, doesn't need a whole lot of training because they already have that expertise. They just need the lay of the land, and then they can just take it from there. So you're really saving the CEO a lot of time. There's not a lot of time or resources wasted on getting this person up to speed. Like, what even is this practice? How do we run it? What do we do with patients? None of that should be happening. This person should be able to step in and hit the ground running and really help the practice with, okay, this is where we want to go. This is our vision. Help us create some systems to get there so that you can see right in the beginning whether this person is equipped to be strategic, be high level, be in this executive position or not. And then what is their relationship like with your staff? That's another benefit of them being fractional, is they're embedded in your organization.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. Can I just ask, like, what is a typical relationship this fractional COO might have with your with the staff on your practice?
Well, they should be embedded in the organization, whether that is 10 hours a week, they are working in your organization on site or virtually. They're basically a person on your team and on your executive and leadership team. So they should be creating relationships with the staff. They should have relationships with the leadership team, and when appropriate, should have relationships with the board as well, or if you have a board. Health centers all have a board. So thinking about how can you embed them, and a good fractional executive will know how they want to do that. They'll be able to say, I need to attend these leadership meetings. I would like to schedule these meetings with managers and mid-level management. I would like to get to know the staff in this way so that they are part of the team and they're not just this temporary employee. A lot of times health centers, I'm going to speak from a health center perspective, will hire an accountant to do their finances. And I always say, no, that's not good. That person doesn't know your business. They don't know, they can't be strategic with you. They can't help you, think about growth and expanding. They're just doing like one task. They're doing your books. You don't want just a revenue cycle manager. You want an operations person who is embedded in your organization for a certain amount of time every week so that they're getting to know your specific organization and your staff.
Got it. Yeah, that's helpful. I think, and I think it's like a really safe way to do that, because eventually you could maybe hire this fractional more. It's that, to me, that sounds scalable in hours, depending on what the fractional can do, but also sets the standard. So let's say you want to bring someone in-house. You know exactly how you want that person to perform. If you've never done that before, you know exactly what works for you and what doesn't work for you.
Yeah.
And it doesn't come at, you have to, it's a lot easier to fire a fractional or to get, to part with a fractional, probably because they're not a W-2, like they're going to be a contractor. Like there's just some like you can kind of dip your toe in the water. And ironically, there's a couple new Therasas affiliates who've come on, and they are also kind of fractional COOs that I think I'll be having conversations with in the near future about. So yeah, okay, man, this is really helpful. So the clinical manager kind of reduces the friction, right? Is in the doing the day-to-day. The COO is you're leveraging. It helps the CEO create leverage, but the CEO needs to give them room to do that. I think that's going to be one of the hardest things a practice owner do, is to like let go of control. But if you're listening to this podcast, just so you know, if you're like my wife, who's like willing at this point, willing to let go of some of that control just so she can have more freedom to think about growth, right? Let's say you want to think about another location, right? You need to be able to create white space in your life to be able to think about growth instead of all these day-to-day putting out the fire things. Because your clinical manager may be able to put out some of those fires, but they're also going to be coming to you to help do it. Like that's just the reality. Like they're going to need to talk to you about contract negotiations and everything, kind of pull you in. So a good CEO is going to kind of add that extra layer of buffer, but also create culture too. I think culture, you're right, is absolutely important. Who you hire, they look great on paper, but they might be the worst cultural fit. And if you're listening to this, practice owners, I know you've probably experienced this. And you're much wiser for it. Yeah, you're much wiser for it. Before I let you go, this has been tremendously helpful, so thank you.
Oh, I'm so glad.
Is there like one maybe other piece of wisdom you might want to share? And then I'd love for you to share how people can get in touch with you to talk about these things that we've shared in this podcast.
Yeah, I think first of all, thank you so much for having me on. I think I would finish with just saying, don't wait, right? Even imperfect action is action. So if you are feeling the burnout, if you are a practice owner, a CEO, and you're just like, I don't even know what you all are saying. Like I literally get to work and I am putting fires out all day long. I can't even think about tomorrow or a year from now. You need a COO. So think about how you can just take a little bit of time, write that position description, write down all your pain points. What is it that this person can take off your plate and help you with? Because your burnout is a big symptom of doing everything and not being willing to give up some of that control. And it is so natural, right? And we've built these businesses, there are babies, and we think no one could do it like we do. You're still there, you're still controlling it, but you have someone now who thinks like you do, who is thinking proactively about and being anticipating the needs of the staff and the practice the way that you would. So get someone hired, even if it's just a fractional person for now, to try to give you some of that space to think more strategically, to put a plan on paper about where you want your practice to go. And then, if you need help with that, I can help you with that for sure. And it sounds like for the fractional positions, you've got some great resources as well. People can reach me at my email it's really easy, jill@jillsteeley.com. You can also schedule a call with me from my website, jillsteeley.com. And I am on LinkedIn a lot. I think it's just Jill Marie Steeley. So
all right. Yeah, it's Steeley.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things a couple months ago when my wife was starting to explore this whole idea of a operations director or something, she's like, Brent, we got to have this conversation. I said, look, here's what I want you to do. I'm going to watch the kids. I'm going to take care of the kids the whole weekend. And I want to introduce you to my friend named Claude. And you're going to sit down with Claude AI, and you're going to have a conversation with him the whole weekend. And she did. And she came away with a lot of clarity. But you know what she did? She actually took that clarity and she hired a coach similar to what you do, Jill, to have a conversation. And so I think having a conversation with the AI to bring into coaching sessions, like some with Jill or whatever, is really fruitful because you're getting a lot of that ground stuff out of the way and you're coming in with like lots of very specific ideas, questions that you want to run past someone who's been on that path many times ahead of you.
That's
And so that
right.
you come in really informed, and you can iterate and get things done a whole lot quicker. So yeah, I highly recommend, if you are in that position and you need some clarity, work with Claude and work with Jill or whatever, go straight to Jill.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
have coaching clients that do just that. They'll say, I was talking to Claude this way. I have a business coach myself, and I do the
Yeah.
same thing. I'll kind of brainstorm with Claude. I also use Claude. But I think where the coach is important is the coach, you're saving a lot of time by getting that outside perspective from someone who has tried it all,
Yeah.
been through it all, knows what works and what doesn't work, so that you're not just like kind of duct taping a plan together and hoping that it works out, right? That you can bounce ideas off the coach. You can say, boy, I'm just tired. I'm really struggling with the idea of this. I don't know how I'm going to fit this in. And then what I do with my clients is, okay, let's take a step back. Let's change our mindsets. We do a lot of mindset work as well.
Yeah.
And I know mental health practice providers can relate to that.
Oh, it's
But
a lot of mindset. Yes.
it's a lot of mindset. It's getting into a new mindset of, this is what my life could look like if I had some help with this. If I wasn't trying to do the day-to-day, every single day, day in, day out, plus trying to think strategically, think about the future of this organization. They have a lot on their shoulders. And so it's just nice to have someone who can say, yeah, that's a great idea, or that's probably not going to work right now, and just kind of walking through and putting together small plans of action.
Yep. And I'm going to say this one last thing. It's a shameless plug for the Group Practice Scaling Summit. We've made the decision this year for the 2027 summit that's happening, I think at the beginning of March, is we're really going to be leaning into AI and how practice owners can leverage AI, similar to what you're saying. If you're working with a coach, or if you're hiring, if you're firing, but how to actually take AI and have it as almost like a nice assistant who works very hard for $20 a month. And but leveraging on the areas of operations, finances, and marketing. So that I think if practice owners have to embrace AI at that level, at least, because it's just so helpful. And then start to have your team, your admin team, start to leverage AI when it comes to report making, insights, so they can. I mean, it's just, almost it's too silly to even not do at this point.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, there are great AI tools when it comes to communicating with patients and reminders and scheduling and all of that. I mean, we have to embrace it. It's here. It can save you a lot of money when done appropriately and correctly.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Jill, for joining me on the TheraSAS podcast here. And please avail yourself to the show notes, those who are listening or watching, to get more information about Jill. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you on the next video. Thanks.
Thank you.